Hey everyone, me Kevin here. In this video, we're going to get a summary of what Joe Biden just said about Mitch McConnell, $1,200 stimulus checks, COVID relief coming, and what's needed for Congress to do as soon as possible. We're going to hear his thoughts on the bipartisan stimulus proposal. We're going to hear if masks and vaccines will be mandatory. We've got a lot to talk about. Woo! Let's get right into this. Right after I mentioned that you should get 4 free stocks with Webull. Deposit $100 with Webull, the stock trading platform. They will give you 4 free stocks worth up to $1,600, and at minimum, they'll be worth $21, which is like a 21% return on your money instantly. And get your life insurance in as little as 5 minutes. Link down below. You don't have to talk to anyone. All right, first, Joe Biden starts off with some statistics. He starts with the November jobs report. He mentions that 1/6 of renters are behind in rent, and that 1 in 4 small businesses can't afford to stay open. He says that 2.3 million long-term are unemployed, and that this data collected in the jobs report today was actually collected before the November surge in cases. That data was collected between November 8th and November 14th. Right before the surge. Biden says that people do not want a handout. They need help. They need relief, not a handout. He says that Congress needs to act now. And if Congress fails to act, 12 million Americans will lose their unemployment benefits. And then he sarcastically says, Merry Christmas. He says paid leave will end at the end of the year. The eviction moratorium ends at the end of the year, which we know that means 12 million households could be facing eviction. He says that if we do not act now, the future will be very bleak, and we are going into a dark winter. Joe Biden says he is encouraged by the $908 billion stimulus relief effort, which is bipartisan. He says some details are still being worked out. We'll talk in a moment on stimulus checks. He says that we need a direct public health response and money for it. We need funding for the vaccines, and we need to ramp up testing so that businesses can operate more efficiently. And because obviously, it's good to know who has COVID or not, so they can stay home and get leave. Biden says the sooner we pass this funding, the sooner we can turn the corner on this virus, which he's had quite a few indirect slams here on Donald Trump. This would be one of them, given that Donald Trump has many times said we're rounding the corner. Biden here is saying we're only going to start rounding the corner if we get this relief passed. I believe Democrats and Republicans can work together, he says, and that Congress and Trump have to get this deal done. So it's not just enough to have Democrats and Republicans on board, but you also need Trump on board. Biden also says that this package, this stimulus package, will not be enough, that we will have to do more than this $908 billion stimulus package. He says we will have to act again in January. Now, this is actually a big shift because a lot of us were expecting not to hear about another package until probably February. But instead here, we are hearing that we're going to act, or Biden plans to act again in January. His main priorities are, number 1, controlling the pandemic, number 2, reviving the economy, and 3, building back better. He says the war against COVID will not be won in January. And to truly end this, we need to spend more money, even if that means deficit spending or borrowing to spend that. He wants more economic relief throughout 2021 until the pandemic is over, which is probably going to be most of 2021. He wants to build back better and reward work, not wealth. Bottom line, he says, it is essential that we provide immediate relief now to avoid the broader economic damages that come with longer-term unemployment. The implications of this, and then we're going to go into questions where stimulus checks and that came up. The implications of this, in my opinion, I would expect to see some form of an unemployment boost in theory. You know, if we see this $300 boost now, it wouldn't surprise me to see a $300 per week unemployment boost stay in effect through a lot of 2021. I know that sounds like far-fetched because it's been so hit or miss now, but it wouldn't surprise me, especially with what Joe Biden says here. Rental protections or renter protections. Joe Biden has previously mentioned that he's also for homeowner relief and landlord relief. He realizes that 47% of American landlords are mom-and-pop landlords. They're not big institutions. They're people like you and me or people who are in my courses on real estate investing who just want to own a few properties and be able to retire sooner. We know that Joe Biden says he is a fan of stimulus checks. And in questions, we'll get to stimulus in just a second. The first question he had, I'm just going to go in order here. The first question he was asked is, how are you going to distribute the vaccine, and how do your plans relate to Trump's? And he used this as an opportunity to talk about basically needing more state and local government money, because the reality is you can ship a container of 1 million vials to a destination, but you still need that vaccine to go into a needle and then go into somebody's arm, and that takes people and locations and money. Then he says, he's asked, how did you negotiate? Like, what role did you play in this $908 billion stimulus, bipartisan relief package? And obviously, Nancy Pelosi, just out of left field, comes out and says, you know what? We don't need to do $2.2 to $2.4 trillion now. I'm good with the $908 billion. This is kind of, to me, it almost feels a little like Soprano-esque, where it's kind of like, no, this is what you're going to do. And then all of a sudden, I had this change of heart. It's really interesting. And when he was asked, like, how'd you negotiate? He goes, I'm not going to tell you what I did, because if I did that, it wouldn't work again. Then he suggests that, he wants this deal to go through, but he realizes that if we insist on everything, because he is a proponent of the HEROES Act, if we insist on everything, then we'll end up with nothing, and that's bad. Now, he was asked if there should be $1,200 stimulus checks in this package. Joe Biden said there should be. He said it would be better if we had stimulus checks. And then this was a big one. I understand the $1,200 checks could still be in play. Big statement. Bernie Sanders, by the way, says he will not support the $908 billion deal because there are no stimulus checks, and instead of providing stimulus checks, corporations are getting legal immunity from liability from COVID. Joe Biden reiterates that he would support the HEROES Act, which did provide $1,200 stimulus checks and $500 to dependents of all ages. Joe Biden says this is a down payment. And the questioners or the reporters asked, well, if this is a down payment, how do we know that we're actually going to get more money afterwards? Like, how do we know we're not just going to do this $908 billion deal and then all of a sudden, boom, it's over. That's it. You got your 908, we's done. Joe Biden says that we should have confidence that the other side will realize we will be in a dire economic strait. Those were his words. If we do not do more stimulus next year. And he expects that we can get it done, and he expects the next package to be in January. Furthermore, he's asked, have you talked to Mitch McConnell? This was pretty hilarious to see. Obviously, you can watch the live portion of that. But Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden, based on Joe Biden's reaction, have spoken at length many times. Joe Biden has had a pretty long working relationship with Mitch McConnell. And it's been actually pretty productive, and it has worked in the past, so expect it to again. Mitch McConnell was the only Republican senator to go to Joe Biden's son's funeral. That should show you something about their relationship. Joe Biden says the last thing you do in negotiations is put down a red line. That right there, by the way, is a slam on McConnell and on Pelosi. He's literally slamming Congress for the last 6 months because, Congress is like, nope, we're doing 2.2 and that's it. Nope, not coming down anymore. Mitch McConnell, nope, we're doing 500. Otherwise, I'm out. And then Mnuchin tries to come in and soothe things over. But Joe Biden's right about this. From a negotiation point of view, you don't hardline. You don't do that in real estate negotiations either. They usually don't go well. We talk about negotiations a lot in the programs. But anyway. What about executive orders, he's asked. And when he's asked about executive orders, implying like, why don't you just do an executive order for stimulus checks? He responds and says, well, the reality is there are some things you can do with executive orders, and there are some things you can't. You just legally can't do. And this is where Joe Biden took another stab at Donald Trump and said, I'm not going to say we're going to spend X billion dollars without Congress. That's Congress's job. Joe Biden said that. Joe Biden was then asked if he will take the vaccine. I don't think he exactly answered this. He says that me taking the vaccine will give people confidence. 3 other presidents will be taking the vaccine who came before me. I'm pretty sure this is Obama, Bush, and Clinton. And let's see here. Yeah, mostly he just left off by saying me taking the vaccine will give confidence. So he kind of implied that he will take it. He also said that science has been diminished thus far, referencing again Donald Trump, and that his goal is to try to get science to the forefront again. He wants the vaccine to be free and available. He says he will also cover health care related to the vaccine after you get it. So not just the first dose and the second dose, but like if you have to go to the doctor for follow-up symptoms or something like that, that'll be covered as well. I don't know how that's going to come across to people. I mean, on one hand, it's nice to know there's like that free safety net, but on the other hand, it's kind of like, you saying there are going to be side effects? You know, it's kind of like you can't win on that statement. On McConnell again, he's asked about McConnell again, and Biden says, look, I don't have to convince McConnell. McConnell knows that I keep my commitments and I never attempt to embarrass the opposition. He says that he is a straight arrow when it comes to negotiating. Joe Biden then goes on to say that there are things that are just ready for compromise now, and basically Donald Trump is standing in the way of those, such as spending on infrastructure, healthcare, and fighting cancer. This is in addition to, obviously, COVID relief talks. A lot of people on both sides want to punish the other side, says Joe Biden, and he says it's time to end that and work together instead. After questions, he's getting ready to walk off the stage, and then he's asked, will vaccines be mandatory? Especially since there's this, it's kind of a little, I would say, maybe clickbaity, but there is some clickbait going around about like, get $1,500 to take a vaccine. There is a proposal about that out there. It's, we'll see. But, Joe Biden says that there's no talk about that beyond the proposal there. But regarding making a vaccine mandatory, Joe Biden says that no, a vaccine will not be made mandatory. And he also says, which this is a U-turn from what we've heard him say before, he says, I don't think masks have to be mandatory. I'm going to ask the people to wear masks for 100 days and make a commitment to wear masks for 100 days, but I don't want to make them mandatory. That's what Joe Biden says. So we've got some big updates here. I mean, we've got him suggesting that, hey, stimulus checks could still be in play. That's absolutely huge. That's certainly unexpected. We mostly because we have not heard much about this at all. Now, one of y'all says there's a trending topic, stimulus checks now. Let's take a quick look at that. Stimulus checks now. Okay, that's just a hashtag that's trending. Yeah, no kidding. We've got a lot of people that are pushing for stimulus checks, mostly on the left. We have not seen people on the right push for stimulus checks yet. However, we do know that there are individuals on the right who are proponents of stimulus checks. For example, in the past, we've heard even like Lindsey Graham say, yeah, we should do stimulus checks. We just haven't heard that recently. The fact that we heard it here from Joe Biden is big, though, because obviously he's talking to McConnell, he's talking to Pelosi, so you can bet he's had that conversation like, are we going to negotiate the checks in last minute? Like, how are we going to pull this off? It's kind of interesting. They've got this very interesting relationship here going on. Yes, Bernie does say he'll vote against the bill, but the Senate does not need Bernie to pass this stimulus package. I think we have about 8 days until a government shutdown. Yes, until next Friday, so 7 days. However, right now there's a lot of confidence that we are not going to be shutting down based on what we're hearing from Congress, White House, Congressional reporters, Capitol Hill reporters, or even White House reporters. So a lot of good news here. A lot of good news. No mandatory vaccine, free vaccine. The $1,200 stimulus checks are still in play. Not even mandatory mask mandates, which is a big U-turn here. That was in Joe Biden's statement today. So there you have it. Thank you so much for watching, folks. I really appreciate you being here. We will see you next time. Just make sure to get your 4 free stocks with Webull and your life insurance, both of those in the links down below. Remember, it's like a 21% return on your money if you put $100 in and you get $21 back right away. I'm sorry, not $2,100. You get $21 back. Just make sure I say that clearly. All right, thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you next time.